I am going to drop a link to the slides here in the chat in case anybody wants them for after the presentation.
Okay, everybody, thank you all for joining us. Today, Dr. Shannon Clardy will be giving a talk about what happens when your internship is canceled. She's a professor at Henderson State University and also Zone Counselor for Zone 10. So if you guys could give her all of your attention, put any questions you have in the chat, and please be respectful as this is being recorded. Thank you.
It's great to see you guys today. Well, to see you participating. I am going to share with you a lot of resources that I have gathered. I put these resources together from input from a lot of outside people. I don't automatically know all of this information myself, so I reached out to a number of other people to get their input. Those people include our Engineering Advisory Board for Henderson, which is industry leaders throughout our state and people who are in industry that are our alumni, as well as some mental health professionals, also including other faculty members and our STEM Center professionals here as well to help you have some information about what to do when your internship is canceled. So let me bring up my slides. Okay, so the title of my talk is, So Your Internship is Canceled, Now What? I have some words of advice that were given from an alumni from our department. Dan Garrison is the Deputy Director of Science Department at Jacobs. He handles the NASA astromaterials contracts at Johnson Space Center. So he says that internships are about intentionally taking a step towards your career, and you should still do that in spite of the situation. Internships give you a connection with a company to build relationships, and you should still do that if you can. Now, the next slide is a set of words of advice from another of our Engineering Advisory Board members who takes a different perspective about this. So this is Robert McClanahan, and he is the Vice President at Arkansas Electric Cooperatives. He has a completely different take on this than Dan does and says there's a lot of very smart people out there with very impressive degrees and academic achievements. The way to set oneself apart from the herd is to develop the soft skills, good communication skills, conversational skills, good writing skills, a broad knowledge about a lot of things. If I could give advice to a bright, energetic college student who finds himself isolated at home, I would tell them to develop the other side of themselves. A free summer could be used to read classic literature, study history, hone presentation skills, pick a topic that interests you but you know little about, read up on it, develop a presentation about it, and practice giving it to yourself in front of a mirror, then present it to a friend via Zoom. I'd tell them to get away from STEM for a few months and indulge in those other things. I've included these words of advice because there's not one answer on how to address this. There are many different perspectives. There are all kinds of things that you can do to help occupy yourself and make sure that you are in a good position to enter the job market or get into research or just to take care of yourself in this uncertain time. So, things that we need to consider. What pays the bills? First of all, you have to make sure that you are taken care of. And it's okay if you have to just focus on paying the bills. If that means that you have to work at the local pizza delivery or the grocery store, that's okay. You may not make a lot of progress towards your long-term career, but you're working on your stability right now. The next thing to consider is how do you maintain your mental wellness? In this situation, we are isolated from one another. Some of us are people. Some of us are not getting out as much as we should or getting the sunshine that might help us maintain a happier disposition. And so sometimes you just have to stop and take care of yourself. You don't always have to be working towards being a better you, working towards your career. Sometimes you just have to be, and that's okay too. Now, once you've taken care of the physical you and the mental you might want to consider what skills do you want to build? Could you be more career ready? or can you research from home, or all of the above? So internships give you a connection with a company to build relationships, and you can still do that if you choose to. You can offer to work remotely on a project for less pay, or if you have your bills covered and the time and you just want the experience, you might be able to work on a small piece of it for no pay. You can Zoom in with company meetings to talk about projects or ideas. But if you need to make a buck and you don't have time to do that, that's okay too. Another thing you might consider doing in this time is to be an entrepreneur. Starting a business this summer related to your field or not related to your field can be a very valuable experience. Um, Being a highly valued employee will take more than just good technical skills or good people skills. It's going to be valuable for you to have the knack for creating new work and being creative in this environment so that you can transition to whatever life brings your way. Learning the business side of things, there is a business side to science and engineering, and it will help you serve you well in a career because you may know how to write a business plan, set up a website, set up online payment for services, and whether or not you're actually successful in being an entrepreneur, you gain valuable skills. So you can put those skills to work in the future. So the point of all of this, you have to consider what you're interested in and what you might want to do versus what you need to do in the moment. Once you have decided for yourself what is accomplishable for you, then we can move on. I put mental wellness first because I think that mental and physical wellness are something that are incredibly important to take care of the basics. The information that I have here came from the Health and Wellness Center here on campus, Deborah Collins. She provided me some resources. So these resources are specific to this time and dealing with coronavirus, but having anxiety in this time. They are through the American College Counseling Association and the American College Health Association. So if you are interested and you need to take care of yourself, you might check out these resources. The more cumulative adversity that we have, the more problems that we have, they stack on top of each other, and the more likely that you are to develop things like depression and anxiety. So we need to destigmatize those things so that we can take care of ourselves. Mental illness is biological, and sometimes the best medicine is to take care of your physical needs. So anxiety and stress can lower your resistance to illness, make you more susceptible to disease, and they can cause multiple physical symptoms themselves, like headaches, chest pain, stomach problems. So if they're unchecked, it can also lead to panic attacks. So in order to take care of your stress, you need to be aware of your sleep. Are you sleeping more or less than usual? And things may have changed a little bit here, but we're talking about a drastic change from your usual. Your eating, are you eating a lot more or a lot less than usual? And what are you eating? Are you eating significantly differently than your normal diet? And then your participation and pleasure in the activities that you do. So if you're a runner, are you running less? Or are you running the same and enjoying it less? If you're an online gamer, are you doing that less, or are you getting less pleasure out of it? You know, check in with yourself so that you are making sure that you are balanced and taking care of your needs. And if you notice that these three things are out of whack, then don't feel ashamed to reach out and seek help. There are plenty of resources out there to help you get through this time. So once you are physically and mentally taken care of, we have some options for skill building, building content knowledge. These resources are certainly not comprehensive, but they are the ones that are suggested by my fellow faculty, by people in industry, and by our STEM Center here. So you want to ask yourself what interests you. What is something that you think you would stick to if you start? What do you currently have the resources to learn, or how could you easily acquire resources? So for example, maybe you want to learn to solder. but you don't have a soldering iron at home. Well, maybe you could find an inexpensive one through the internet and order it, so it would be at your house in the next couple of days. So what are the resources that are available to you, and what would be good? What's easy to get your hands on? You want to consider crossover skills that could be used in multiple industries so that they're portable. Things like blueprint reading. There are lots of places that you would use blueprint reading or wiring diagram reading. Physicists are not always employed as physicists. When you get a physics degree, you are employable in a broad range of fields. So you want to consider what really interests you, what do you want to go into, and what are the skills that people have in those fields. So here I have some CAD resources. After the CAD resources, there's ANSYS, which is a software that allows you to do like fluid modeling and temperature modeling and strength stress testing. You might consider Google training. If you are a teacher or a programmer, there are different Google options to be Google certified, and those are skills that you can put on your resume. AIP has career-based webinars. I have that link in here. And then often in research and in academia, we use a lot of math programs to help us calculate some of the things that would take pages and pages of math. So MathWorks, they make MATLAB. There's a link to them on here too, because they have webinars. And you can find just about anything that you're interested in on YouTube. The question is it reputable, and are you going to learn things in a productive way? So to be well-rounded, you need to know a little about a lot, but you also need to be aware of what your limitations are. So don't learn a little bit about a lot and feel like you know everything. It's also valuable to learn a lot about one thing, no matter what that one thing is. So pick a topic that interests you and ask for help from professors, or reach out to find a mentor at a company or a family friend. Networking can still happen in this time. It just ends up being virtual mostly. Use those connections to craft an idea and ask a question, and then you can use the internet to find further resources. But starting with a personal connection with someone will help you to know exactly what you want to learn, and it will help you to find more reputable sources. So in addition to skill building, I have some resources for content knowledge. These were suggested by Dan Garrison at Johnson Space Center and Robert McClanahan at AECC. Things like Udacity or Khan Academy or the Harvard courses, you can learn more in a specific area. And then if you can't find something from one of these places, there's always good old Google. So once you have decided what you're going to do for the summer, whether it's building skills or taking care of you, or you want to become more career ready, or all of the above, you can pick and choose here and there. Here are some resources to help you prepare to apply for an internship once things open up, or to apply for a job. Or even when you're working on your graduate school applications. These things are all very important skills to have. Most of this information was shared from our Career Development Center on campus. They have spent a lot of time gathering resources for our students and are happy to share those resources with all of the students that are out there. So here is a link on creating a good CV or resume. You might consider looking at how to find your authentic career. That's something that's going to stick with you, that you're going to be happy doing, that you're going to be able to invest your time and energy into without feeling bogged down by work. So you're going to spend a lot of your time in the future working. So it's best if you find something that you actually enjoy doing and developing as a career that you can further. The Occupational Outlook Handbook is put out by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. It's an office with our national government. So if you're interested in a career and you want to know more about it, you can find out average salaries, where they're in demand, who's hiring, how many there are. The Bureau of Labor Statistics gives you a lot of information about different occupations that you might be considering. So that's something that you might not have thought about before. So as you're planning for your future, look and see how much demand there is for the things that you want to do. Also, SPS National has taken a lot of time and care in putting together fantastic career resources. So there's the link to the career toolbox on here. And lastly, making a good impression. This is good for all of us, whether you're interviewing for an internship or a job or for a grad school or just connecting with people in life. It's very important that you make a good impression and put your best foot forward to begin with. The connections that you make today are the connections that can stick with you throughout life, depending on how you take care of those connections. So your networking today, whether or not you realize it, with each person that you talk to, with each person that you interact with, you are networking. The students that you go to class with, those will be some of your best connections in the future. Some of my classmates are working at Google or other universities or national labs, jobs in industry all over the country. And if you maintain those connections, then you can call upon those people. I often reach out to my former classmates and ask them if they would be willing to talk to my students, because my students are interested in careers in their fields. So you never know when you will call upon those classmates. Just make sure that you maintain a good relationship and touch base every now and then. So networking is very important. One other topic I wanted to address was, is it possible to research from home in this time? So if you had a research internship, you can ask if there's anything you can contribute from home, either for less pay or for free to gain experience if you're willing. If that is not an avenue that's open to you, you can ask your university professors if there's a project that you can pursue. I am working with a few students this summer, and if you don't have resources outside of yourself, so you've asked a company, you've asked a professor, and you can't find someone to help guide you, you're always welcome to come up with your own projects and pursue. Now, some of those big projects that require labs and lots of equipment, those are things that will have to be put on hold, but that doesn't mean that you have to stop developing new things, new ideas, being creative, and pursuing research yourself. There are a few articles here that I have included in case you're interested about how different institutions are handling their approach to research during COVID-19. So I have a link from Higher Ed, Chronicles of Higher Ed, and a couple from Science Magazine about how different people are dealing with the research situation. Now, these are about a month or so old now, these links, so there may be newer information out there. But all of this is to say that it's not impossible to do research from home or to develop your skills or to make yourself more desirable to be hired once the jobs do open up. So it is possible to be improving yourself during this time and getting yourself ready, and also taking care of yourself. So it's okay to take care of the basics. If you need to focus on you, your physical health, your mental wellness, and not worry about self-development at this time, that is a perfectly acceptable option, and you should feel okay to do that. But there are also avenues to develop skills if you're interested. Developing skills that are hireable across multiple industries like programming, soldering, wiring diagram reading. There's a slew of different options. You can build content knowledge through various online resources, either for free or for pay. You can develop your own research, your career readiness in looking at your resume, your cover letter, And if you're doing research at home or building your content knowledge at home or projects at home, those are things that you can fit into your resume as well. You can, let's say you spend a summer looking at how to program microprocessors to make a quadcopter. It might seem like a simple project that's a toy project, but you learn a lot of valuable skills from that. And you can list skills like designing mechanical systems, programming, uh, soldering, reading wiring diagrams. Those are all relevant skills to put on your resume. And they'd probably be more relevant than things like, I worked at Dairy Queen for the summer. Although that's a perfectly respectable thing to do, that's not something that's going to get you hired in a national lab or in a big time career job. So having those individual projects will help build that resume as well. And the takeaway from all of this is that you are not alone. Many people have had their internships and opportunities canceled. Many people are wondering, what the heck am I going to do this summer? So scientists and students all over the world are trying to determine, how do we handle this situation? How do we take care of our research? How do we take care of ourselves? How do we continue to move forward? So you're not the only person that is asking these questions. We're all here. So at this point, I would love to have discussion if you have any questions. I'll stop sharing so you can see me, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Shannon. That was awesome. I have a question just to get us started while people are typing the questions. Can you give like a brief overview of how you've approached research from home?
Some of my research has been kind of put on hold, and I have to be okay with that. For example, we are working on testing this wind tunnel, which has taken me 8 years. I've had 15 students work on it, and it's taken 8 years to get to the point where it's now testable. The students have worked on the design and the fabrication all the way through to the construction. And it's kind of exciting because we get to this milestone, but we get to this milestone right at the point where it's like, you can't be there. So some of the things on that particular project, I am working on, writing down ideas, finding as much about those ideas as I can, seeing what other people have done so that I'm ready to go when we get back. I work in rocketry, and so some of the things that we're doing with rocketry, I've taken home the 3D printer. I have microprocessors at home. My house is this crazy workspace. We have a workroom with a giant computer monitor and a 3D printer and a soldering station. And so we're working on the instrumentation that we want to put in rockets and how it's going to work. And one of the biggest challenges that I've had in researching from home, when I'm in my office, it's a controlled environment. It's quiet. I can close the door if I don't want to be disturbed. And it's a place where I am used to working. I'm in the mental mindset to work. When I'm at home, I have this adorable cat that's pushing things off the table. I have my son who is asking for help with his math homework. I have, usually he's asking me to check it because he doesn't really need help. But this is all to say there's distractions. And so sometimes it's really hard to sit down and focus or devote a specific time. So part of what I've done is I've said, this hour of this day or these 2 hours of this day, I'm going to devote to this thing. And I've let everyone in the household know, I'm really going to try to focus during this time. So if you could avoid distracting me, that would be helpful. But then the other thing is that I've just had to accept that distractions are going to happen. So it's a mental process of accepting that I'm not going to get as far as I want to get. And I should just be proud of whatever progress we actually make because, hey, it's progress.
Definitely. Looks like we have a question from Allie. Do you have any tips for asking professors or employers for research to work on over the summer?
So I've had a couple of students ask me about research. it is most helpful when students know what they want to work on, and when they're asking me, it helps if it's something that I am knowledgeable in. So my students are aware of what my research interests are. Now, some of them they want to work on things that I don't know about. And a lot of professors would be willing to help you find resources for that, whether it's not them themselves. So when students come to me and say they would like to work on, for example, prosthetic hand, so that's one of the projects that's going on, we reached out to a local place that makes prosthetics and orthotics to get started. So professors can use their networking skills to help you find some resources. Not all of them are going to know, but if you reach out to your personable professors in your department, a lot of them I think you'll find are willing. As far as reaching out to employers, if you had an internship set up, then you probably have a contact with a company. So you can reach out to that contact and say, look, I know that this isn't a possibility. Could I still contribute? Is there something that I could do? And some of them will be willing. Dan told me that there are still things that have to get done at NASA. And so those people that had those internships, a lot of them they're helping to fit them in somehow, to have some contribution. If you don't know someone at a place and you didn't have an internship set up, if you know people that work at those places or know people who know people, friends of friends, it's often helpful to have an in. Don't be surprised if you make a cold call to an employer if they don't get back in touch with you. What I have found though is if you make a polite cold call and then you check back and say a week and check back and say a week, eventually someone usually gets in touch with you because they realize you're very persistent. So don't be afraid to do that. Just be very polite when you do. But it's often, the best results often happen when you have an in somehow. So someone can introduce you to someone else.
Awesome. Thank you. Let's see. Anybody else wants to put any questions in the chat? Now would be the time. Okay. Well, I think we're going to end it there then. Thank you, Dr. Clardy, for giving this wonderful talk. I'm going to share your link again just so everybody can get those links from the PowerPoint if they would like them. And I will also be posting this online, so the link, can I put the link in the description of the video as well?
Yeah, that's great.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you guys for coming.
Thank you all for coming. I hope you guys are all staying healthy and safe, and have a great rest of your week.